Well, the city of Toronto is just waking up, getting started this morning. We are live for your morning right here at the intersection of Yonge and Finch in North Toronto. This is the scene of a deadly van crash yesterday. 10 people have died, 15 people still in hospital this morning. It is an active investigation. Just a couple of updates to give you this morning. You can see the businesses behind me, they're closed. This crime scene runs about 2.2 kilometers. The area, that whole stretch of road on Yonge Street is closed. Businesses around this area will probably be closed for the rest of this day. There's a major subway station just to my left. Subway line will be running, but skip that stop this morning. As well as we are watching for the Prime Minister to speak in a couple of hours. And then, of course, Lindsey will update you a little bit later on about the suspect's appearance in court. But I want to bring in, this is Aras Reisi. He lives in this area. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for being here. You were on scene yesterday, right after the van crash happened. Exactly. You were with one of the victims. About 2 blocks from here is where you live. Tell me, what did you hear? And then how did you arrive on scene?
A family member told me, oh, look, there are people got hit outside the window. And granted that I have a first aid training, my instinct response was run out of the door. I always carry gloves in my pocket, put on my gloves and start running help. And next thing I know, there are 2 people north of me, very close distance, 2 people south of me. But it was wonderful how community came forward. There was another volunteer who was offering first aid. And everybody came forward. And I want to thank the men and women in uniform and first responders and firefighters who came very promptly. But the sheer volume of the number of people from all here to there was in such a way that they had to triage it. And I want to say to my fellow Canadian, we owe it to the victims that to get our first aid training. You never know when you need to help someone.
Aras, when you walked out, what did you see?
My first observation and thought was that, okay, somebody hit and run, got panicked, hit the second person. That's what I thought, that there was an individual injured on the ground, there was a fire hydrant torn apart, and practically anything that was on the sidewalk that could have been damaged was really damaged. That's what we saw. You
were able to administer CPR to one of the victims?
In my case, thank goodness the victim that I rendered assistance was not unconscious and loss of vital that needed CPR, but he needed other assistance, so no. In my case, it was not a CPR. No.
What was his condition at the time? Was he in shock? Was he in pain?
Well, granted, there were a lot of medias and filming. I prefer to respect his privacy and not to disclose what the condition of that individual was. But I can say, thank goodness, I don't have any information that really bothers me because I really wanted to follow up with, but we had to do other things and running vigil, etc., GoFundMe campaign. But I'm very hopeful and optimistic that he will survive this horrific incident.
I want to get to the vigil in just a moment because you are part of a condo association. And for people who aren't familiar with this part of Toronto, there are lots of condos around. You were saying around 25,000 people is the population in the condos in this area.
And probably even more. There are a lot of condos. It's a very popular and very vivid and dynamic corner of Toronto, yes.
Yesterday, the scene up and down Yonge Street was unbelievable. We saw the pictures from our CTV News chopper. You could just see the tarps that lined Yonge Street. Very sad to see.
I totally agree with you. I mean, there were 3 dead bodies in just small corners. Very unfortunate.
How did you sleep last night?
Well, to be honest with you, there were no time to sleep. We were here with the organizing of the vigil until 2 o'clock, and after that we have to go put up our GoFundMe campaign and reach out to our council. I had a conversation with him yesterday, members of the associations, and there is no time. I mean, it's time for action. It is time for action. We want to get our GoFundMe campaign up and running to be able to get much needed funding for the members. And in order to have a legitimacy and transparency, we are reaching out to different members of the community to have a representation on the community. As a matter of fact, we extend our offer to you guys to have a representative of our community. And that's very important. I mean, these people are suffering emotionally significantly. The least we could do is to have funding for them to help them not to suffer financially. So there are lots of emails to going around.
Sure. And, as people are waking up this morning and trying to process. Yeah. Aras, thank you so much for being with us. Part of our coverage here on your morning. As Aras mentioned, there is a vigil just across from where we are standing. Posters have been set up. People have come on their way to work this morning to lay flowers, to sign thoughts of condolences, to light a candle, to say a prayer. So we're going to continue to follow this story throughout the rest of the morning for you. I know that Lindsey has an update, and I'll send it back into the studio.